So, I've had the 4Runner now for 1 month shy of 2 years, and during that time, I have not regretted 1 minute of this purchase. I have missed the Land Cruiser, the 80 series, just because I loved that vehicle. But I have enjoyed the modern comforts of a modern vehicle, the safety features, the off-road features have not let me down. Love the Land Cruiser and the solid axles, but it takes me everywhere I want to go. So I have no regrets. But there is one thing that has bothered me ever since I first got the vehicle. One thing. And I thought that I had found a solution and that I was going to upgrade that aspect of the vehicle. But it turns out the grass is not always greener on the other side. Let me explain. This is what I'm talking about.
From cruising to camp?
Hey, that's a pretty good podcast if you haven't listened to it. So, this is a 2018. Got to turn down my radio too. Let's just turn it off. This is a 2018 Toyota 4Runner. And the vehicle itself basically has not changed since 2010. But what has changed over the years is some of the tech. However, in 2018, most vehicles had fantastic head units with Apple CarPlay or Android's version of that. Not as good as Apple CarPlay, obviously. And the radios are fantastic. This stereo, this head unit, is very antiquated for a 2018 vehicle. And it wasn't until later years, I think 2020 or 2020, they upgraded the radio, I believe, the head unit. And in 2022, they finally added a full array of cameras like many vehicles have now. But this head unit, this stereo, has been a little bit disappointing to me. No Apple CarPlay. You can get the vehicle to play the audio from your apps on your phone while it's connected via USB, but on Bluetooth it will not play the audio from driving directions from Apple Maps or other navigation devices. That's disappointing. So I was on the lookout for a modern replacement, a better radio. And I found several viable replacements or viable solutions. All had wonderful displays, all had Apple CarPlay and the Android version of that, all modern radios. In fact, one of the ones that was very attractive to me, and the one that I ended up getting, would allow you to download other normal phone apps right to the device, to the head unit, and then you didn't even need your phone. For example, Gaia, or I can't think of the other navigation app that I like the best. Oh, Avenza. You could download those apps right to the head unit, and your phone would not even be necessary when you got into an off-road situation. Even without phone signal, as long as you had GPS, which you do, even without phone signal, you could use those navigation devices. So I watched for a long time. I saw the price come down. I contacted the company that makes this specific unit. I looked and did research on YouTube and read up on forums, and several YouTubers, even some big names, recommended this device. But then they all mysteriously later moved on to a different device. And in fact, not very long after doing the review of this device. But none of them ever gave what I consider to be an accurate review of the device. Let me show you the device I'm talking about. So I gotta be honest with you. There's a few little bugs, but I'm digging this new head unit for the 4Runner. Very, very good situation. Lot better than the factory head unit.
I'm starting to let go of ideals. And I mean that to be so staunchly opposed to the idea of being able to have a fire. I just refuse to go. So,
you know, I'm already having fun with some of the features. I need to connect it to Wi-Fi before I can do that. So I'm here in my driveway, and I can connect it to Wi-Fi. There's my home, Castillo de King. Oh, it's connecting. I must have interrupted it. So, after the initial installation and setup of the device, I was quite enamored with it. The screen was beautiful. Completely takes up the complete space of the opening and the dash. It was beautiful. I immediately got on my hotspotted with my phone, went onto YouTube and watched some videos right on the device. You could even do that while you're driving, though I would never recommend that. Fantastic. But then I started noticing little bugs. The Wi-Fi would not stay connected. It would just disconnect at random. Even when I was sitting in my driveway at home, within reach of one of my Wi-Fi extenders, I was 10 feet from the television I have in the Overland Rum Shack that works only off Wi-Fi and has never lost signal, and the Wi-Fi would just turn off. I'm not saying it would lose connection. The Wi-Fi in the head unit would just turn off unexpectedly. That was problematic and irritating. So I went through the settings, I looked online, found some potential, people thought they had fixes for it, tried them all, didn't work. Something else that it would do, this was the most irritating of all. In fact, Mrs. King Overland said she would not go on a trip with me, no road trips until I got it handled. And it irritated me as well. But at exactly 10-minute intervals, the Apple CarPlay would completely disconnect, and you had to force it to reconnect. So we're traveling along, listening to a podcast or an audiobook or just something via the Apple Music, and every 10 minutes, disconnect. Right in the middle of the song, right in the middle of the podcast, whatever. 10 minutes like clockwork. I drove on a 4.5-hour trip while I had this. I had for a work trip in my own vehicle, and the whole way out, every 10 minutes, click, reconnect, click, reconnect. It's just aggravating. So I contacted Amazon, through whom I had bought this at a discount in a collaboration effort with the manufacturer. When I contacted them, I was 1 day beyond 30 days of making the purchase, because once I received it, it took me a little while to find time to install it. I wanted to install it right. I didn't want to rush, and frankly, it sat in the box in my office for about 2 weeks before I finally got to it. So by the time I finally realized I needed help, I was 1 day outside of the return period. But thankfully, Amazon recognized, hey, it's just 1 day, and they tried to help me. And what they did, Amazon, I applaud completely. They connected me with someone with the manufacturer. I chatted with them. I told them the symptoms that I was experiencing, and they had me go out to the device and give them the build number and all that stuff so that they would know what update might help me. And so then they emailed me 2 updates immediately. I don't understand why it had to be 2 files, but I had to run 2 different files to get the update that they said would help. Now, I paid attention to the build number and the date and all that stuff. Even after doing the updates, none of that stuff changed. I thought that it would say, okay, now a new date, right? Because I had refreshed those things. None of that changed. And then I thought that the problem was fixed, because it seemed initially like the Wi-Fi was not disconnecting anymore. In fact, I sat in my driveway for about 2 hours doing things on Wi-Fi. I downloaded apps, I downloaded files, map files, and Gaia files. I downloaded some photos from my Gmail account, so I had Gmail on the thing. I could email pictures to myself, and then I could open the Gmail app on the device and download them to the screen, or to the files on in that device. So it was working good. But then suddenly disconnected from Wi-Fi after 2 hours. I said, well, I'll worry about that later. And I never did reconnect to Wi-Fi in that same manner again. And then, not only was the Wi-Fi still not fixed, the 10-minute disconnecting from Apple CarPlay still happening. So I contacted the manufacturer again. I still had a chat going with them through the Amazon app. And they said, there's another update you should try. I should have sent you that to begin with. They sent me another one. I followed their instructions to the letter and installed it in the way, or uploaded it, whatever you want to say, in the way that they told me to. I had to put it on a thumb drive, take it out to the vehicle, put it in the USB port, follow the instructions exactly. And again, was hoping for the best. That didn't fix it either. So finally, I contacted Amazon and I told them that despite their efforts to help me, which I applaud the people that tried to help me, but what they told me to do just didn't help. The device was still faulty. It was not working as promised. So I contacted Amazon and they agreed that they would give me a refund upon return receipt of the item. So I took it out of the vehicle, boxed it up, shipped it back to the manufacturer, to Amazon, and as soon as they received it, they credited my account. Now again, I got it at a steep discount because it was finally on sale and because I was doing a collaboration, and I promised to give honest insights. So I'm going to tell you right now, from the surface, the device is beautiful. The screen is amazing, and it was far superior to what I already had in the 4Runner. But it was unreliable. While it had some magnificent features, the bugginess of it kept it from being really usable in the way that I used it. I mean, how many of you listen to or use Apple CarPlay or the Android version of that for only 10-minute intervals? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you accept that? So for the bugs and the other problems that it had, I determined that it was not for me. Now I'll tell you, there are other reviews of this same device. The Dasaita head unit that replaces, it's made for a perfect fit for the 4Runner. It fits in the entire dash. All you do is take your existing air conditioning vents and the flasher. I mean, it's easy. It's plug and play for installation purposes. But several of the reviews out there, I don't feel like they've given an honest review to tell their viewers that the reason they moved on to something newer was because that thing was not worth having. In one example, very famous YouTuber for people in this community, he gave it to a buddy, and then he went back to the factory, the OEM. He said, I like the OEM look, and he put back his factory radio. Maybe he does. I'm not criticizing him. But he certainly didn't tell his viewers that he was having the kind of problems I experienced. Another YouTuber, beautiful 4Runner, fantastic, one of the best builds out there, out in the Midwest or out in the West. He moved on to a different, a bigger head unit with a bigger screen, more of a kind of the style that you see in a Tesla, the style that you see in a Tesla. He never explained why he moved on from that one. Obviously that was an upgrade, but he never said diddly squat about the other one being problematic, and I'm confident that he experienced that too. If you do some research outside of YouTube, you will see a number of people that will tell you, don't buy this thing. And frankly, I should have known better. I think when it comes to vehicle audio, that's one of the things where you cannot be cheap on brand. So what I'm going to try to do now, I want to see if one of the newer versions made by Toyota is plug and play with my vehicle. I want to see if I can upgrade to one of the newer versions of the head units that are in Toyota 4Runners now. So if any of you know whether or not that's possible, or you can tell me how I can make it possible, I would really appreciate your feedback. Honest review from Nathan King. If you send me something free or at a discount and you want me to give my feedback on it, you better be ready for me to give real feedback. I'm not slamming the product. I am just telling you that in its nature or in its current format, work still needs to be done to it to make it more usable, and it's not going to work for me. Maybe you would deal with the things that I encountered as far as bugs go. I personally, not for me. So, buyers beware, make your own decision, do your own research. Do not rely entirely on YouTube videos and reviews in order to make purchasing decisions. Don't do it. There's deer poop right there. How cute. So then,